Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Halloween horror movie review. Let's head on over to the secret chest and see what treats await this time. Okay, it's been kind of hit and miss this past week. Let's see what surprise awaits us this time. Oh my God! Now you're talking. Oh yeah. We have the original 1979 haunted house movie in space, Alien. Awesome. Now playing. So into the world of science fiction horror we go this time with the absolute classic of the genre, the original Alien from 1979. Let's talk about it today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, where to begin? I probably don't need to tell many of you what the story is, because it's, only one of the most renowned sci-fi horror movies ever made. Long and the short of it is there's this deep space mining vessel. The crew is on their way home. They get woken up mid-journey to investigate this planet that's nearby. There's a crashed planet on it, or a crashed planet on the planet. There's a crashed ship on the planet that they have to go to investigate. They find all these weird things there, weird interior of the spaceship, weird things inside the spaceship. They find these eggs. One of the guys looks in the eggs, gets a face hugger on his face, gets impregnated with an alien. The alien bursts out of his chest while they're having dinner, and they all almost puke because it's so disgusting. The alien runs off. They go to try to find it. It grows really fast, and then it starts picking them off one by one. Essentially, what we have here is a haunted house movie in space. I've heard that description used a lot in regards to this one, and I think that's a very accurate description, because essentially in a haunted house you're trapped in this environment with this unstoppable force that's trying to kill you or scare you or possess you or something. So essentially we have the Nostromo, which is just a gigantic ship, and just a kind of skeleton crew heading back to Earth, and they're being stalked by this just unstoppable alien creature. It's a mining ship, it's not a military ship, so they really don't have much in the way of weapons, and they have to use their own resourcefulness and ingenuity to try to figure out how to survive. Overall, honestly, a freaking masterpiece. Like, I every time I watch this movie, I find something new to enjoy about it. So I watched it again just this past week for the first time in probably almost 10 years, to be honest. It's actually been quite a while since I last watched it. And, I just fell in love with it all over again. It's interesting to revisit every few years because, as I say, I always see something new. In this case, I'm coming from an angle of having seen a lot of films over the years and seeing it from kind of a filmmaker's perspective and appreciating the craft and the technique of the film itself, and just the cinematography, the framing of the shots, the use of very subtle music and sound effects to really build the atmosphere and the tension. I love the fact that the first first several minutes of the movie, like almost 10 minutes of the movie, there isn't a single line of dialogue. Everything is conveyed visually. You just get you get the shots of the Nostromo. Well, even right from the beginning, you get that very slow reveal of the title while the credits are playing over this just beautiful spacescape, and it slowly comes to where the Nostromo is. Then we learn that the Nostromo is a mining ship and such. And there's all these long, slow shots through the just quiet corridors of the Nostromo, finally ending in the control room where we have the two, space helmets sitting there, and the computer screen comes to life, and they're communicating back and forth and stuff. But it's like there's no activity, there's no life. It's just very quiet, and you just hear the low hum of the ship and sort of the quiet hissing of the atmospheric system, and and then the computer springs to life. The thing that always struck me about this is that I mentioned this a lot in my playthrough of Alien Isolation, by the way. Um, the the technology in this is it's like old school futurist technology. So everything's very clunky. It looks very used, very lived in. Things don't always work right. You got to hit them to make them work, and it's very believable retro future tech essentially. It really feels like it's been used a lot and broken and repaired and retrofitted God knows how many times. But the thing that struck me about the technology and the sound design and stuff like that is it all seems very I don't know how to describe it, dangerous. Like there's just like everything has this sort of tinge of aggression to it. It's like big, loud, clunky buttons and switches, and computer screens that just kind of blaze to life with information, and doors that just like hiss loudly open, and vents that just go and stuff like. Just things are jumping out at you all over the place, even if it's just something as simple as looking at a readout on a computer screen. So it creates this uneasy stress, and you can see that these characters are stressed from from their jobs, from having to deal with each other, being a little bit stir crazy, just wanting to go home, and then they got all this spastic, jumpy technology stressing them out further, and I just love it. I mean, it just all works together so beautifully. The other thing I've always loved about this movie is the cast. Holy crap, what an amazing ensemble cast of characters. And I love the fact that, the women and the men, there's no sexualization at all. These are just, 6 people out there in space to do a job, make their money, and go the fuck home. They're not there to bang their coworkers or get into any kind of romantic entanglements or anything like that. There's some stuff in the original script and sort of some of the original, deleted scenes that were never filmed, where occasionally, some of them might sleep together just purely as stress relief, but there was no, like, emotional attachments there at all. It was just like, I'm horny and stressed, can we just fuck, please? And that was basically it. But they didn't go there in the movie. There's a couple of scenes that they were going to kind of touch on that, but for whatever reason they decided not to. And I mean, either way, I think it would have been fine, because still there's no love story, there's no sexualization of the characters, there's no emotional entanglements. They're just there to do a job. I've often heard the characters described as truck drivers in space. They're hauling their cargo to their destination and collecting their paycheck, and then taking a bit of a break, and then off to the next job, whatever it is. And I just love how natural all of these actors are together. I mean, you really immediately buy it that they have worked together for a long time. There's some little bit of tension between some of the members of the crew. Maybe they don't all get along particularly well, but you sense that there's a long working relationship there, and that they all know each other really well. There's a bit of light ribbing back and forth and things like that. And that just adds to the believability of the characters. And I mean, due in no small part to just how outstanding the cast is, and what wonderful seasoned actors they were. Even the ones who hadn't been in a lot of movies at the time are still, I mean, they really hold their own with these seasoned actors. I mean, you got Tom Skerritt and John Hurt and Ian Holmes and Gurney Weaver, of course, Veronica Cartwright, Yaphet Kotto, and oh my God, why is it Harry Dean Stanton? Sorry, I was thinking, I know this cast really well, but all seasoned professionals who had, some of which had already won a bunch of awards. I mean, this was a serious cast of serious actors playing serious characters, but what a great ensemble. I mean, it's not often you see that kind of group that just works so well together, just clicks so perfectly. I mean, it was very convincing and wonderful. So just these, hard-talking, trash-talking, hard-working, union, blue-collar workers out there to get a job done, and it was great. I just love the camaraderie between the characters. And I love the fact that, I mean, this is not a fast-paced movie. It really takes its time to get going. And we spend a lot of time just kind of hanging out with the crew and getting to know them as characters, as people. And I like that. I like the fact that it's not all about the alien going around killing people. I mean, the alien itself doesn't appear in full adult form until about 2/3 of the way through the movie. I mean, you get a lot of build up before that, and you spend a lot of time with the characters. And it's almost a 2 hour long movie. It never feels like it's 2 hours to me, because I just get sucked right in. Like I'm just sucked into, feeling like I'm one of the gang with these characters, and what can I do to help? Maybe not. That would be kind of crazy, but you know what I mean. I mean, you get invested in the characters and the situation, and all that. So when all the horror begins, it's all the more affecting, because you really, you feel like you have a relationship with these characters, and you've established those relationships, and you feel bad when they get killed, because these are well developed characters. I mean, for what little time we've spent with them, maybe an hour and a half, we feel bad when they die. I mean, that's great. I mean, how many horror movies do you see where you feel genuine affection for the characters and actually care that they die? Not very many, especially a lot of modern films, which are just kind of, all right, here's our group of stupid teenagers. Let's take bets on which one's going to get killed first. And there's no feeling there at all. There's just no impact whatsoever. This has impact. These are real people, real characters in a real spaceship doing real space work, and you feel bad for them, because these are just regular folks out there doing a job. It just happens to be in deep space. It could be any one of us, and that's what's so wonderful about it. So let's talk a little bit about some personal anecdotes here. My personal introduction to Alien. Well, my very first introduction to it was, I guess, probably just the teaser poster, just seeing the cracked egg and not really knowing anything about it. And of course, I'm thinking, oh, Star Wars, outer space stuff. And I'm like, Mommy, can we go see that? And it's like, no, that's not really a movie for kids. I'm like, oh, but it's outer spacey stuff. It's like, no, it's not really for kids. I'm like, okay. So then, for Christmas that year, I received this from one of my relatives, which is the original MPC model kit. Now, this is a reproduction. The reproduction did not have this on the back. I'm actually going to do a build of this sometime this Halloween season, so look forward to that. That will be a model building video, first I've ever done of one of these. So anyway, I got this model kit, and my dad helped me assemble it, and the model kit adorned my shelf for many years. So I still knew nothing about the movie. All I knew was I had this cool, badass-looking alien on my shelf. My mother hated it. And one day I came home from school and found that the lovely, beautifully detailed alien model kit had disappeared. Yes, I actually didn't notice for quite some time. I'm sure it had disappeared quite some time before. But dear old mother decided that it was ugly, and she threw it away. So imagine my delight when I was in the comic book store on the 35th anniversary of Alien and saw that MPC had released a reproduction of the original Alien model kit. Needless to say, that was a no-brainer. I didn't care what the budget was. I was getting this fucking model kit back on my shelf where it belongs. So fast forward a few years later, still hadn't seen the movie. I'm in the local comic shop, and I find this, Alien, the illustrated story. Now, by this point, my dad had given me kind of a summary of the story, so I knew the gist of it, that, there was this alien that it stuck itself on the guy's face, and then it burst out of his chest and such. So I had some idea of what to expect. But because my parents had built it up so much when I was a kid, I was terrified to watch this movie, so I didn't want to go in cold. I wanted to know as much as I possibly could about it before I went in to see it. So I read the comic book. And honestly, as far as comic book adaptations go, this is freaking beautiful. I mean, look at this artwork. This is amazing. It's adapted by Archie Goodwin and artwork by Walter Simonson, both veterans of the biz. And so we get to just show you a couple of different things here. Just an amazing sort of panel layout and beautiful detailed artwork. really, for the most part, looks like the characters. Oh yeah, and check this out, the reveal of the alien spaceship. I mean, what a beautiful splash page there. Um, and then what else do we got here? Yeah, so then if we skip ahead, yeah, so you can see, I mean, this is a pretty thorough adaptation. I mean, it's very, very detailed as far as covering all the major plot points, and it really does capture the essence of the characters as well. So, let's see, the iconic chestburster scene. All right, this was how I first saw the chestburster scene. Kablam! The description reads, eruption, a scarlet shower of flesh, of blood. So there we go. So very, very cool. And the last page is falling out, sadly. It's been very well loved over the years. Where is it? Can we get a look at the actual alien here? Yeah, here we go. So this is when Brett encounters the alien. Very cool. Yeah. So anyway, very nice. And by the way, if you pick up the 35th anniversary Blu-ray edition of Alien, it includes a reproduction of this page, every single page. So it's smaller pages than the graphic novel format here, but it is the complete adaptation. So you can check it out for yourself. Pretty cool. Now, there are two cuts of Alien. There's, of course, the theatrical cut and the director's cut. Until recently, I had only actually watched the theatrical cut, but I'd seen all the deleted scenes that were inserted into the director's cut. Kind of interesting because the director's cut inserts about 6 minutes of deleted scenes, yet runs about a minute shorter than the theatrical cut. In his introduction for the director's cut, Ridley Scott talks about how, they wanted to add some additional scenes in that had been cut out before, and also he said, after seeing, this is around the 25th anniversary of the movie, he says, when you've sort of reviewed a movie several times that you've done over 25 years, you start to pick up on little things that bug you. So in addition to adding in the new scenes, he also did some tweaking and some trims and snips here and there. Hence why it's got additional stuff in it, yet runs shorter. So two very sort of different yet the same takes on the movie. So, for example, a few notable additions in the director's cut. We actually get to hear the alien transmission as they're trying to figure out what it is. So there's a little scene about that. And also in that same scene, Lambert determines the location of the planet. So they're able to go and check it out. One of the big additions to the scene is, of course, when Alien discovers the Ripley nest. Yes, when Ripley discovers the alien nest. And we actually find out that Brett and Dallas were not killed. They were actually cocooned in the nest. And I saw this post on IMDb. It's like, it's been a subject of debate for many years as to what's actually going on in that scene. No, actually it hasn't. I don't know where you're seeing these debates, but it is perfectly clear what's going on in that scene. In fact, when those deleted scenes were originally presented on the Laserdisc set like 20 plus years ago, they explained in detail what is going on in that scene. Those Laserdisc extras, by the way, are in the Alien Anthology set and the Alien Quadrilogy DVD set. They're in the Laserdisc archive. So you can see for yourself exactly what it said in the Laserdisc set when it presented those deleted scenes. So what's going on there is we get a different type of life cycle for the alien. So in the original version of the alien life cycle, there was no queen. The aliens were a self-perpetuating species. So in this case, the alien had taken two of its victims. One of them, Brett, was being morphed into an egg, was being transformed into an egg, like devolved into an alien egg with a facehugger in it. And then Dallas was basically cocooned on the wall, waiting for the egg to be ready to be a host for another facehugger. And that's it. That's what's going on in that scene. You can see it visually, clear as day, and it's been explained in the extras for years. So there you go. No debate. I don't know. I don't know. But I guess some people just don't bother actually looking at extras. It's like, the answers are right. I mean, especially with the Alien set. I mean, the Alien set is the Alien Anthology, which is like the most thorough presentation of 4 movies you could ever possibly hope to have. I mean, there are so many hours. You get 2 cuts of every movie. There's so many hours of extras. Every question you could ever possibly have about the Alien movies is answered in those sets, several times over in a lot of cases. Even I, as huge a fan as I am of the Alien franchise, even I haven't gone through every single extra on those sets because there's just that much stuff. I mean, it's exhausting. Plus, it gives me more stuff to enjoy down the line. It's like, hey, I never listened to that commentary track on that particular cut of the movie. I might as well check that out. So, long and the short of it is, I love Alien. Oh, I got a little sidetracked there. So that was my first look at the chestburster scene. So when I finally did see the movie when I was, I don't know, around 15 or so, and finally saw the chestburster scene, honestly, I was kind of disappointed because I mean, you saw it in the comic book there. It is just an explosion of blood and guts, and the alien is just like, just lunging out of his chest. It's nowhere near that spectacular in the actual movie. It's still horrifying and disturbing in its own way, but they definitely overemphasized and exaggerated it in the comic book version. But otherwise, I mean, it's the end result is the same. I was going to mention also, I was mentioning about how in the original script they had sort of some allusions to sex as stress relief. There's a scene here where Ash is just kind of going off to do his thing, and there goes the page again. And Ripley asks Lambert, says, "Did you ever sleep with Ash?" And she says, "No, did you?" And Ripley says, "No, I never got the impression he was interested." And Lambert says, "Neither did I." Speaking of Ash and beautiful acting performances, one thing I really picked up on a lot this time around when I viewed is just some of the wonderful subtleties of Ian Holm's performance as Ash. In particular, whenever Ripley comes along and asks him a question about anything, he just looks so annoyed. Like, yeah, it's this, and this, and this. Does that answer your question? He just seems so put out by the fact that she's asking him questions about anything. And then there's just so many little subtle tics and whatnot. So when it turns out, when we find out he's actually an android, it all fits because he's always been kind of an oddball on the team and just doesn't really have any patience for anybody and just kind of does his own thing. But there's all these little tics. Like in particular, like I always thought of it as he was kind of keeping things under control and whatnot until Ripley threw him against the wall in the computer room. And that just sort of threw something out of whack, and then he went nuts. But obviously there's another layer to that. He now sees her as a threat to the mission that he was sent there to do, namely the retrieval of an alien specimen for the company. But I always saw it as when she threw him against the wall, she jarred something in him, and he just, snapped as a result. He was malfunctioning. So, he goes through the whole thing. And the whole scene where he's trying to, kill Ripley, I mean, he does, like, all kinds of little tics, like he just kind of, like, spazzes a little bit and things like that. Just a wonderful, scary performance by Ian Holm. Fantastic actor. You may remember him more recently as Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings movies. He was the older Bilbo Baggins. So, yes, very cool indeed. Yaphet Kotto, always a delight. Totally convincing as the blue-collar union guy. Him and Harry Dean Stanton as Brett. I love their relationship. There's a line in the movie about how every time Parker says something, Brett just responds with, "Right." Brett's very first line in the movie is, "Right." So if you go back, keeping that line in mind, you'll notice that, yes, actually, that's true. He does answer right to just about everything. Yeah, great stuff. Dallas, I got the impression is just kind of this seasoned space captain who's just really freaking tired. He just seemed really exhausted by just the burden of command, and just wanting to get home like everybody else. And yeah. Oh, one other thing I was going to mention, just Veronica Cartwright. What an amazing actress. Just saw her again recently in Nightmares, which I reviewed shortly before the Halloween reviews. Um, Interesting little behind the scenes story. There's actually more insert shots of the alien approaching in the scene where she gets killed, and they. However, Ridley Scott was so impressed by just how convincing her reactions and just conveying the sense of absolute terror and fear were, that he cut out a bunch of those insert shots just to focus more on her reactions, because he just thought her reactions were amazing. And I agree. I think she's a fantastic actress, and really just made that character it's an amazing performance. The other thing is, not many people know this, but the scene where, again, in the Lambert death scene, where the alien's tail goes down between her legs, and everybody assumes that, oh, it's like raping her, or or cutting her in half from the middle of the legs up. Interesting side note: if you look carefully, that's actually not her legs. It's actually Brett's legs. Yes, that tail through the legs was originally part of Brett's death scene. In fact, if we take a look in the comic, which I'm guessing was adapted from a slightly earlier version of the script, yeah, take a look right there. There it is. The tail goes through his legs and reaches up behind him and is basically used to pull him towards the alien. And in the game, Alien Isolation, for example, we see the alien using the tail a lot more as a weapon, and we've seen that in the movies as well, which we'll talk about maybe if I remember in the in the later movies. But yeah, so it's interesting, kind of how just a little bit of editing here and there can completely change the context of something. So the shot of the tail going through supposedly Lambert's legs, coupled with her auditory reactions. We don't even see what happened. We just hear her like gagging and choking on her own internal organs or what have you, and just imagine horrible things being done to her. But that one shot of the tail going between the legs really puts that in a whole different context. And obviously that was the intention. It's like, well, maybe they won't notice that it's a different pair of legs, but and nobody really does unless you're looking for it. So there you go, a little bit of trivia for you. That was originally part of Brett's death scene, but for whatever reason was swapped over to be part of Lambert's. And it actually made Lambert's death scene much more horrifying. Oh, actually, one other thing that's in the director's cut is Parker and I think it's Parker and Lambert rush in just after Brett gets carried off by the alien, and Parker gets a bunch of blood drops on him from Brett up in the rafters there. So yeah, long and the short of it, I love this movie. Did I say that already? Well, I'm saying it again. Love the music. The music, just beautiful, subtle, creepy, atmospheric music score by Jerry Goldsmith, one of the masters of film scores throughout the 70s and 80s. Just did some amazing stuff. He's the one who composed the Star Trek The Next Generation theme, folks. It was actually his Star Trek theme for Star Trek The Motion Picture. So, very different score for this one. Very, moody and atmospheric and subtle. And for being a horror movie, it's actually a very low-key score, yet very distinct as well. I mean, as soon as you hear it, you get the kind of, like the violins, the kind of scratchy, I don't know what the term is for it, like vibrato, tremolo violins, that kind of like pizzicato violins. It kind of creates the sound, the sense of like insects scuttling around and things like that. It makes you feel very uneasy, and which is perfect for the alien because it's very insect-like in terms of its appearance and whatnot. Oh yeah, another little behind-the-scenes tidbit. The design work of H.R. Giger. You may notice the tops of the eggs. Originally, the design was just a single slit. And they said, well, it looks too much like a vagina. And of course, H.R. Giger is all about putting genitalia symbolism into his art. And if you look closely, you'll see a lot of vaginas, labias, penises, and ball sacks throughout the design of Alien. It gives it this very organic and slightly uneasy kind of look to it. But that's a thematic element of a lot of Giger's artwork, is incorporating genitalia forms into his designs. So anyway, he got a bit of flack for having essentially the opening of the egg look like a vagina, and said, well, because we want the movie to be able to be shown in Catholic countries, so they're going to take exception to that. So he said, okay, well, I'll make it more like a cross then. He's like, okay, cool, that's good. So, so now it's two vaginas crossed with each other. So, awesome, good job. So he said, so I made it a cross just for the Catholic Church. There you go. That man was just a lunatic genius. I just love his work so much. Amazing, amazing stuff. Yeah, see, now, here we go. I could go on about this movie for hours. I love it to death, and always will. I think it's an absolute masterpiece of science fiction horror. And not even just as science fiction horror, just as a film. I just love that it really transports you to another place. The effects, holy crap. 1979, the special effects in this still hold up today. In fact, in some ways, they look better than a lot of modern films. The model work is just phenomenal. The outfit for the alien is phenomenal. Like, the design of it is beautiful. The movement of it is beautiful. It's very threatening, very visceral. This is a dangerous, dangerous creature that you do not want to meet in a dark corridor. But yeah, amazing, amazing stuff. Love Alien. All right, I got to stop talking about it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep gushing about it. This is a really nice edition to get, the 35th anniversary edition, simply because it has the comic book adaptation and a bunch of art cards. In terms of the disc content, it is literally disc 1 of the Alien Anthology set. There is nothing different at all. The Alien Anthology set is pretty cheap nowadays. I've seen it go for as low as $20, sometimes less. That's a hell of a deal for all the hours and hours and hours of content you get on there. Alrighty, let's pick us a chocolate bar. Well, you know, I think it's gotta be a Wonder Bar, simply because I think Alien is absolutely Wonder Bar. Alrighty, quick thank you to my Patreon sponsors, especially Kyle Pellegrini and Get Your Gorgeous On, the always wonderful eMag maintained by Michelle O'Toole and Simon Hedger. And until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. It's a bum burster. Me. La la la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Now playing. Welcome back. Well, if ever there was a movie that needed no introduction, it's this one. Pretty much, yeah. Fucking A. Alien. Well, goodbye. I don't even need to say anything. It's awesome. It's Alien.